of all, welcome to Solo. I believe that this is not your first time to come to this city, but this time it's a little bit different because you came with one mission to becoming part of Persis Solo. What are you feeling about your experience to becoming a head coach of Persis Solo?
Well, yeah, like you said, I was here. I think towards the end of last year on a visit to Nusantara, because my club in Singapore, we had an agreement. We also signed one of their youth players in Singapore. So yeah, I never thought that I would be back next time in Solo being head coach of Persis Solo. But you know, that is sometimes yeah, life as a footballer, whether it's a player or a coach, and yeah, never expected it to be back so soon, but yeah, really looking forward to it. Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, let's talk about your journey. You spent years in Holland as well, and then Asia and also Australia. In Asia, you spent several years in Malaysia and in Singapore. From your point of view, what's the biggest difference and similarity between football there and how we play here in Persis and maybe Indonesian football in general?
I think Southeast Asian football, you see similarities in Malaysia that you see in Indonesia as well, and I think I said this before. A lot of it has to do with structure. What I notice is when you look at football in Europe and you look at the distances between the last line and the strikers, the space is much smaller. So you see a lot of transition games in Southeast Asia. So it's a little bit of structure or sometimes lack thereof. But when you look at the talent that is there, and I think that's obvious because talent is not defined by where you are born or in which month you are born. Talent is everywhere, but the way they have been developed from a young age onwards is different in Europe, and is probably even different than it is in Australia.
Coach, you mentioned about the relationship between player and coach as well, and also the talent. I did a little bit research and I found something really interesting, because if you remember, you write an article in Coaching Life. You say that the real issue sometimes is not the player, but the coach who overcoach instead of guiding player to think of for themselves. You even compare to your experience where you're driving in Brisbane. You lost GPS, where you fell lost without even you thought you driven it 100 times in Brisbane, but you know, it's like when you lose the GPS, you feel like you to rely
lost.
on yeah. And how this idea shaped the way you want to coach Persis and help the player to becoming more independent on the pitch?
Now, I think in football, creativity is extremely important, and we want to develop creative players. But what you see a lot in youth is that our coaches, or we as coaches, always tell players what to do before things even happen, rather than you know, creating a situation where they have to make the decisions, and then maybe later you can talk about the different options or the other options that there were. So as youth, especially as youth coaches, we are very good at telling players what to do. But if you always tell players what to do, what they don't do is actually think. Because they do what you tell them to do, and not because they understand, no, because you tell them. And yeah, I compared that to a GPS, because I wanted to find a metaphor to explain that to coaches. And a good one was that, yeah, I was driving in Brisbane to a place I already had been before. I actually think it was an appointment with Ans Postecoglou, the Tottenham coach.
Former.
And former. Yeah, that's a pity though. Somehow I always use my GPS to get anywhere. I do the same in Singapore still. On a road that I traveled before, probably even 50 times maybe before, I was completely lost. Simply because the GPS wasn't telling me, 100 meter to the right, then to the left, and then, while I know that if I would have driven there, let's say in the beginning with some directions on a map, and then start thinking, okay, when I see the Shell station, I need to go to the right. When I see that big bank, I need to go to the left. I would have found my own way, and I was lost. So we have become the GPS of our players, and when we're not there, they're lost. But we need to develop independent thinkers, independent creative thinkers, and I think that's a big problem in youth football, that we're too directive.
Yeah, speaking of development and youth football as well, Persis has a lot of promising local youngsters. Back in 2 years ago, even our academy wins the youth competition. But in the next year, I think just 2 or 3 players coming directly goes to the first squad, and it's become an issue in the supporter, because what's the point of having the youth team that win the competition, but not many players go through the first squad? How do you want to help them grow and make sure that the club keep producing a good player for the future and have the similar track from the youth into the first squad?
Nah, I think it's very important that in youth football that there is that you pick a playing style that's suitable for the development. And I think, I come to Persis solo and I will be judged on a result, because I'm a senior professional coach.
Yeah.
But I think youth coaches should not be judged on a result. They should be judged on the development of the player. So you can win a league, but if you don't produce players for your first team, I think you still have a problem. In saying that, if every single year 1 or 2 players from your highest youth team sign a contract with the first team, I think you do a reasonable job, because that last step is so hard.
Next question, looking at your coaching philosophy overall, what's the core idea that you believe in, and how do you plan to apply that here in Persis?
Well, to keep it general and simple, I believe that in order to win games, you need to score. And if you want to score, you need to have the ball. So I believe in possession-based football. But in the end, just having the ball is not the aim of a game of football. It's about creating opportunities. It's based on possession. Can we play forward, high tempo, and obviously when we don't have the ball, I don't expect my teams to sit back and wait for the opponent to make a mistake. No, we want to force them to make a mistake, and obviously then you have the transition moments. But yeah, I want us to be brave. To be brave on the ball, to play without fear, regardless of who we play, and that's a difficult playing style. So and it requires some, a certain type of players as well, and a certain type of mentality. And but that's what I strive for, and I also believe that there is obviously different ways to win games, but this is what I believe in. This is also because I think that we play football also for our supporters, and not also, mainly for our supporters. So I think it's our obligation to make sure that we don't only work hard, but that we also play good football that they enjoy.
Some of our supporters thought that you are attacking-minded. I agree with that, and what part of your mind and your tactical preference that your thing will fit and best to help improve Persis and Indonesian football as well?
No, yeah, I just said that I'm a strong believer that that in order to win games, I believe you need to have the ball. But like I said, there is different ways of winning games. I mean, you can also park the bus and play on the counter. I'm not judging that philosophy because a lot of coaches have been successful with that. But it's something that I don't believe in, and like I said, I also think we play a game for the game of football. We also play for our supporters and to entertain. But just to entertain and not get a result, that's of course not what football is about. I think Johan Cruyff said once,
Defense
no, he said winning games with bad football is boring. Playing good football don't get the results is pointless. So obviously we want to win, but we want to win a certain way, and obviously we need to take the pre-season and the preparation to to look at the players and do they have the characteristics and the profiles of and where we maybe have to add some quality.
Okay, now about the people behind the scenes. How do you see yourself working with the current coaching staff and management to build a strong and united team of the pitch? Because some of our coaching staff is not related to you before, not having experience to work with you before, and I heard you have a plan to bring someone that already have a plan to work with you as well. Okay.
Nah, to be honest, in the discussions with the club, I said let's keep the staff as much as possible intact, because I've seen that in so many clubs in Southeast Asia. I've seen it in Malaysia, I've seen it in Singapore, where a new coach comes in, he brings all of his own people, and then the coach gets the sack or he quits, and all these people go. And then I'm thinking, what have you left behind? What have you now built as a club? I would like to say that my ambition is here to perform well and build an identity as a club, and that is not only to improve players. I also want to leave something and have make an impact on the staff and the staff that's here. I think football is bigger than just playing in a competition and try to win a game and play good football. It's about building a culture within the dressing room. You can't win games with a bad culture in the dressing room and just good players. To be honest, in order to do that, there is no way I can be successful by myself. I need the people around me. I need the management and the staff around me. We had two very good seasons at Balasiakalsa, but the only reason that we were able to do that was because I had the absolute support from, in particular, the vice chairman, who understood me and helped within the limitations of the club or the boundaries of the club. But there's no way that I can have an impact just by myself. I need the support from the people around me and the people above me.
Because when we announced you several days ago, some guy on the internet pointed out that you spend a lot of time as a technical director and working with your team. In the article that we mentioned before, you mentioned that you miss the week-to-week pressure of coaching, and you didn't want to people label you as just technical director and people that handle the youth football only. How do you respond of those stuff, and what drives you to take on this role now?
Well, I've definitely proven in the last couple of years that that is not the case. But I know where this sort of existed. What people don't know is that I had to retire early because of an Achilles injury.
2018, right?
No, I was 31, but I still had 1 year on my contract left. And because I still had a year left on my contract, the head coach asked me to analyze the next opponent. The reserve team coach, who was also a friend of mine, asked me to assist him with the reserve team. Some of these players were actually older than me at the time. So I started as a coach, I did my badges, and then I became technical director of the club later. But what people see now, he was 3 years technical director.
Yeah.
What people don't know, because it's not on Wikipedia somehow,
Sure.
I don't know how that works. But from those 3 years, I've been coaching 2 years. And I was assistant coach of, I did nothing with youth at the time. Then I went to Queensland as a technical director, but the first 2 years I coached the Queensland Academy of Sport, and that was a combination of Queensland Academy Sport and Brisbane Roar. Brisbane Roar Youth.
The statistically spoken that not many coaches can stay until the end of the season, and with that fact, what will you do to build a strong mentality and keep the player motivated every week until the end of the season?
Well, nothing really special. What I want is that the players enjoy the way we're gonna play, that they believe in how we're gonna play, and I'm sure they will enjoy it, by the way. And then obviously it's gonna be a long season. In the end, and the prizes are being given away at the end of the season, not in the beginning. So we got to make sure that they stay hungry, stay fit.
Coach, last season, that was the worst season that we have after we getting promoted into Liga 1, because for I think more than 10 weeks we are in relegated zone, and then just the season comes to end, and then it's miracle happen, and then we save, and then we stay in the season, in the league. And after that the expectation goes high. Whenever comes, and then the expectation goes high. How you deal with those expectations from the supporter based on our last season?
Yeah, look, that is part and parcel of professional football. Supporters think with their heart. It's good. That's
sure.
why that's what makes football so interesting. So yes, they stayed in the league with last year, and now supporters want to make the next step, and we're not going to wince about that. We love expectations. I love high expectations.
When the results don't always go on our way, how you plan to handle the pressure and expectation from management, the fans, and the public itself? Because people in Solo are talking about football everywhere here.
Yeah. No, and that's good. That's good. But any staff member or player that ever has worked with me knows how I would answer this question. And that is pretty simple. The only thing that matters is that we stay focused on the things that we can control. And that is how we play, when we have the ball, when we don't have the ball, our own actions. What other people think, do or say is not in our control. We got to make sure that we're 100% focused on the things that we can control.
How familiar are you with the club history and culture, and how will you bring that into how you coach the team day by day?
Well, I think when you look at the passion of supporters in this region, which I think stands out from a lot of other regions in Indonesia. Although in general, I think the passion in Indonesia is massive. But this feels to me, from what I've seen and heard, feels sort of special. I can't wait to get started and make sure that we do something special this year.
Yeah. Last season, even when we are not in our best performance, our stadium attendance is the fourth highest compared to another team that have a better result in the pitch.
Yeah.
And you know, it means that our supporter keep coming to the stadium even when we have like bad result. Are you familiar with this kind of situation when
Yeah.
the supporter come to the stadium even in the bad moment?
Yeah, I played for a sort of a cult club in Holland as well, called Cambuur. It's in the north, and we had sort of the same. Even when we had a bad season, there was always a core group of supporters that no matter what happened, they would always be there. Seen some footage from players, supporters waiting for the bus. It reminds me from when I was a player. We sometimes came home in the middle of the night after an away game at 2 o'clock in the stadium, and there were 3,000 people waiting for you, and that's sort of unique in Holland. There's only a few clubs who have that, and here, I enjoy that, and it brings a lot of pressure as well.
Yeah, of course.
But like I said, the only way to deal with pressure is to understand that you need to focus on the things that you can control. And you asked me about the history of the club. This all went pretty quick, but obviously I did want to do some homework on the club. I know they got promoted a couple of years ago after 10, 11 years in the second league. I know Persis, as it is now, is probably the club as a whole is, I think, around 100 years. But Persis, as it is now, is probably 70 years old, something like. And obviously now I know about the region, and look, I wanted to do as much as homework as I could to, that I'm well prepared.
Yeah, looking forward to it. What kind of mark of legacy do you hope to leave behind in Persis?
What I want to achieve is that, and we spoke about these supporters, about the supporters already. I want to build a relationship with our supporters that they know that no matter what happens, no matter who we play, that we will always try to play a similar way without fear. But that we also work our socks off for 90 minutes, regardless of what the scoreline is. We owe that to the people that come and buy a ticket. And I hope that's going to result in that no matter what happens, we will have that back, because we have earned that, because we need to earn that. And that they go home being proud that they're part of this club, but also of this season, of part of doing something special.
Persis Solo!
Sakil say!
Nah, that was good. Okay.